Hi, Antoine. Thank you for making this interview happen for me.
Thank you for having me here. Yeah.
Okay. Could you tell the audience who you are and what you do in one sentence?
Sure. So I help people be exceptionally focused at work and in life and get in that state of flow, which we know makes us 2 to 5 times more creative and productive than usual.
Great, yeah. And you do the Flow Productivity Day. And what is this?
So the Flow Productivity Day is a one-day event or sometimes a retreat of a few days where people bring their laptop, their work. And we work in such a way that we get very focused. There are no distractions. And ultimately, we enter that state of flow. So on average, people achieve 2 to 3 times as much work as what they would achieve if they worked in their usual workplace environment. And we do this including meditation, yoga, stretching, anything that basically brings our energy levels up and also tends to induce that sense of fulfillment, purpose, and happiness about working.
And how did you come up with the idea?
That happened because about 3 years ago, I was working on writing a book and I was at home every day and I was free to do anything I wanted. And I found out after about 10 months of procrastinating and low effectiveness that I really had to find a way to learn how to be productive. And Productivity Day is basically the result of that. So I started bringing people together, running a certain structure during the days that got us to be focused and productive. And this developed into what it is today.
Okay, and how did you start? Were you always self-employed or?
No, I started the very classical way. I was brought up to be a good employee. I did a PhD. I was a consultant. And then I started disconnecting from that a little bit, going more into the startup world, venture capital. And then finally, when I came to Berlin after 11 years in Australia, that's where I made the big reset and decided to follow my heart, my passion, which at the time was writing that book on hacking the brain for happiness.
Oh, great. And how did you, or when did you decide to take the step, or how was it for you to step out of your work and then do something self-employed on your own full time?
This happened a little bit by accident. It wasn't so much of a conscious decision. So after quitting that last job that I had, I went traveling around the world. And like many of us do, I had no new insights and revelations. I knew I didn't want to go back to a standard job. I didn't want to be stuck in that environment. And bit by bit, I stumbled upon what I'm doing now.
You know that my channel is about side hustles and financial independence, and many people hesitate to start their own business because they think they don't have the time for that. And what would you answer to them?
Well, I'd say the number one factor is surround yourself with people who are doing this. I think there's nothing that's going to have more of an impact in our mindset and also our energy to actually take action towards building that business, trying things out, iterating.
Could your method also help that with that problem to get productive for a side hustle?
Absolutely. This is basically, we're training our minds in Productivity Day to be more focused. And that happens not just at work, but in everyday life. After work, on the weekends, our mind stays on the task more easily. We have less of a tendency to procrastinate anything, also less resistance to make decisions and to take action to start something. So this is a general skill, and in my view, effectiveness, which is the umbrella under which I put those skills, is the number 2 most important factor for happiness. Number 1, you're going to ask me, is love and connectedness. And this is something that we can practice in everyday life. And that we know from research and studies, what we know less is that action of making progress, that skill of moving forward, is something we can train. It's a skill set, in fact, a set of skills. And for me, this has been a life-changing skill set to develop. I've now run more than 100 events, and I've trained my brain through those events to be more focused. And I see this on a daily basis at home when I work. And many people who've come to Productivity Day for 10, 15, 20 times also report the same thing. Their brain has a more capacity to get work done, and there's more enjoyment out of it.
So why is it so hard to get productive?
The $1,000,000 question, right?
Yeah.
I'd say the number one factor is because it's very hard to be focused. Our brain is not designed evolutionary to stay on something for several hours, as we are required to do in today's environment to be successful. Secondly, we don't always have something that we are passionate about, something that calls upon a sense of purpose in us. So learning to be focused is one thing, but we also need to know what to focus on. Now, when those two ingredients are combined together, that's when that magic of flow tends to happen.
And what is the flow?
So flow is a heightened state of consciousness. That's when we lose a sense of time, when we are so immersed with what we do, so fascinated that everything else disappears. Our mind is able to block distractions, and we then open up, the brain basically opens up to more information. It processes things deeper in such a way that we make more connections, we're more creative, we find more ideas, and we also tend to do our best work in that state of flow. And that's also the optimal state of happiness.
Do you think that creative companies and or tech companies are flawed in terms of how they structure work?
Are they flawed or are they flowed? That's a good question. I don't want to make a generalization, but I think the standard working patterns in companies are not particularly healthy. Open spaces make it very difficult to concentrate. People get interrupted often. And we know the statistics. People are interrupted every 11 minutes on average. So they're great places to collaborate, to exchange information. But when it comes to doing deep focused work, it is a hard place to work. Absolutely.
Yeah, I noticed this a lot. And we had an open office some time ago, and I thought at that time I lost a little bit my ability to concentrate.
That's very possible. Yeah. We also know that working with technology, switching one window to the next, the phone, actually down-trains our brain from being focused.
Oh, that's a bummer. So we need meetings and we have to go and talk to colleagues, and at the same time we may break their flow and therefore lower the productivity of the company as a whole. How could companies deal with that problem?
Absolutely. It's a difficult problem because people need to collaborate. One way to go around this is to create focus times in the company. So deciding, for instance, that on Thursday morning from 10 a.m. until 12, there's 2 hours of pure focus time where people are not talking to one another, they're not picking up calls, they're basically shielded from that, and so they can get deep into their work. And this can happen several times a week.
How does the Productivity Day help, and why is it effective?
It helps because it creates an environment which does not exist anywhere else. It's completely free of distractions, of interruptions, of temptations. And there's that group energy that happens when all of these 10 to 15 people are focused at the same time. And we know from science that our brains tend to pick up on the mental state of other people. So when there's a group effect like this, the more we focus, the more the group focuses, and the more we focus as a result. And that doesn't happen in an office. And it's something that's, I find, magical to experience when that happens.
Okay, now how is the Productivity Day structured? What do you do during the day?
So the way we work is we break the day in intervals of about 50 minutes or so, during which we work focused and silent. And then we take a break, usually including some energizing methods like stretching or exercise. We set some goals in the morning. Those goals are shared in the group to everybody so that we have that sense of accountability. And we basically get into a flow throughout the day until about 5 or 6 p.m. after which we can celebrate and reward ourselves for the good work that we've done.
Can you include also yoga and meditation? And for someone who did neither of that, is that a hurdle?
So we make sure that first, this is optional, and B, it is an easy option for people who want to take it at their own pace. There's no pressure whatsoever. So people can do it at their level of capacity.
Okay, but the meditation is guided, so everyone who never did that could get easily into it, right?
Absolutely. And it's designed to be simple.
Should companies include sport and health in their work schedule?
Ideally, I think many companies these days are aware of the fact that the happiness of the employee has a huge impact on their productivity. And so they offer plans. But do they offer that during the day? I think we're not there yet. And that would require a cultural shift in companies where people stretching at their desks or in some other room would be the new normal. I think then we'd be getting closer to better working conditions for people.
And also more happiness because you feel that you got something done. And
absolutely. And I remember someone told me that he started running up and down the stairs at his office and never felt so happy working. Simple trick.
What else do you use to break the ice and get people in the flow on your productivity day?
So in the morning, we start with a morning routine. People get to know each other. We do a few fun games quickly for about a few minutes. And then we also interact with each other, help each other solve some of our challenges in our work. All that happens in a matter of about 15-20 minutes.
If someone wants to attend the productivity day, where should they go? What should they do?
Simply on productivityday.com.
Okay.
So we're based in Berlin, but I also travel anywhere in Europe and potentially around the world.
Okay,
easy.
Great. And do you consult companies?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I put the link in the description, so you can follow up on that. Do you have any advice for starting entrepreneurs if they want to start their own business?
I'd say, one, to surround yourself with people like that. B, especially if you're in a job and you're busy most of the time, have a system in place where you spend 20 minutes, half an hour a day working on that business, however small the step is. Because those 30 minutes accumulated over several weeks comes up to a big amount. It compounds.
All right, then thank you for the interview.
Thank you, Jörg.